devolution in England, the change in local government, and the introduction of regional devolution, and what are the implications of that? Also, the sort of wider concerns around low turnout rates for local elections, particularly that lack of connection between young people and local democracy in some context, but also in the context of the EU referendum and that sort of impact it's had on UK political culture. Kirklees Council have decided to host this commission. It's one entirely which is emanated from themselves and independent from the institution itself. But I do fully sign up to it. I think it's a laudable enterprise and it's a timely one as well. I think it's the right time to ask those right questions. And it's reassuring that not only have the four main political parties that are part of the council bought into it, so it's sort of taken up, every sort of party element out of it. Also, the Youth Council is fully involved. The University of Huddersfield Student Union and the local further education colleges, etc., all brought into this. So there is a genuine sense in which this is a serious piece of work. At the moment, what we've been doing is last month we went around Kirklees meeting citizens from across various communities and talking to them about what they think are the challenges and opportunities of local democracy. This month we're meeting stakeholders, people such as yourself, representing different organisations. We're in London, we're in Manchester to meet to the architects of S.W.I.M, and also back in Kirklees. So this is a serious piece of work. It's been recognised at national and local levels being that. And in many ways, it's a conversation. One of the things that we're very keen to make sure is that anyone that is engaging in stakeholding, giving evidence, such as yourself, we're going to keep that conversation over. We're going to be drawing up recommendations during October and November, and we will send those draft recommendations to you, and we would be very grateful if you could review them, think about whether we've captured what you're going to be saying in a way which you think is accurate, and also comment on the recommendations that we come up with. This is not just simply a one-way dip into your expertise and then au revoir and then recommendation service complete. Once we've done that process of sounding boards, we're then going to serve the report to the council itself to consider, but it's also going to go out to national agencies and local agencies as well. So it will have resonance, it will have impact, and in many ways one of the things that is encouraging about the fact that you're here, both with your Bite the Ballot hat on and as yourself an independent advocate. I've had the pleasure of knowing Kenny for a number of years now, and he's been one of the keenest advocates, not only just for lowering the voting age, but for changing youth political culture to embed young people into that. I think it's only appropriate that you are here today, and we're very grateful for you giving your time up.
Thank you.
To sort of start with, and to sort of give you a very interesting sort of lead in, because I think this is where your work has some strong resonance, is what do you think are the main barriers that make it difficult for young people to engage, not only just as active citizens, but also particularly in local democracy?
Is she joining us as well?
She is, yes. Oh, sorry, do you know what I've not done? I've scooped ahead. I've not introduced the table there. Do you get into this sort of generally sort of there? Let us introduce the people on the table first, sorry.
Hi, my name is Imafidon. I'm one of the elected members for Kirklees Council and also a member of the Commission.
I'm Councillor Cathy Scott. I'm also elected member of the SAID and I'm a member of the Democracy Commission.
Hello, I'm Diana. I work for Kirklees Council. I'm working on the online content for the Commission.
Hi, I'm Kenny Wiswell, got first Carlos Craft. I work for Governance and Democratic Services.
Spencer Wilson, Governance and Democratic Services.
Councillor Andrew Paulfillan, I'm a member of the Commission.
Andrew Marchington, Commission member.
Apologies, let's start again, but this time it's slightly more colloquial and collegiate approach. So again, this sort of notion, in many ways we are very much interested in this sort of sense in which if there is a disconnect with young people, what are the barriers, particularly in the context of them being active parties as citizens, and particularly in the context of local democracy. What do you think are those barriers?
Well, first and foremost, I think the most important barrier is just the fact of them not being educated on politics in the first place. So in terms of actually its importance, its significance in terms of them as an individual and them as a citizen. And that in itself starts to create lots of problems for a lot of people like yourselves who want to engage with young people and then the rest of society, because the problem is just not with politicians, it's also with people who deliver services, full stop. As many of you local councils will know, a lot of people don't actually engage in the services they actually need for one reason or other, and a big part of that is due to the lack of education, the fact that people go through this whole system of compulsory schooling, believing to learn everything that is important to them. However, that's one thing in particular which is not taught, and for whatever reason people may say why they don't teach it, because teachers may impose their views on students. However, I feel like actually you can impose your views on a lot of things, and if you teach students properly, you also teach them the skill of critical thinking and the fact of actually, this is my view and I'm allowed to have one. However, you don't have to believe this as well. This is just something that I think, and it's important to actually give young people that responsibility. And I feel actually, due to the nature of how school is and the culture, people of course frightened to teach politics, because people know actually we're not teaching these students to become critical thinkers for themselves, we're just teaching them how to pass an exam. So that's where a lot of the fear comes from, and that problem is much bigger than what this particular commission is going to tackle. However, if you're looking at barriers, that's something that it's the elephant in the room that no one talks about. The fact that actually we're going through 16 years of school and not being taught anything. I learned about sedimentary rocks, I learned about the weather, the climate. I mean, I learned all this algebra and Pythagoras theorem, but the one thing that really matters when I'm doing this commission, it's never been taught or made real to me. And I guess that's just the first barrier. The second barrier is just in terms of relevance. So a lot of people just got issues in terms of just daily life and just getting by. We've seen the poverty across the country and particular communities. People, this is the last thing people need to think about. They're trying to think, how am I going to pay my rent, cover my bills, send my kids to school. You're competing with all the trash that's on TV. And these are just, I know a lot of times people don't want to talk about those kind of aspects. However, that's just reality. People are just, their time is busy. Their time is taken up by being busy doing a lot of things which they feel is they need to do for survival. I was kind of talking about these outside of the box barriers first, because then we actually know where we're actually at, and so we're trying to compete with people's time, and at the same time trying to engage groups of people who have never been taught that this is significant until one point in their life they turn to 18 and everyone's like, yeah, you've got to do this, you need to engage, and all of a sudden it's such a big deal. And as you can imagine, that's going to be difficult for a lot of people. And I guess we're talking about in terms of local context. Actually, for me, that's where a lot of people can get engaged in politics locally, because they can actually see the change. It's much easier to see your change locally than nationally. So, for example, if I live in an area where there's not enough lampposts, and we ask for lampposts and we see them, then I've seen that direct change through my course of action. However, on a national scale, we know that could take you years or however long, and you might not actually even see some of the things you're advocating for. And I guess with local council, even with a generation like myself, which is instant gratification generation, pretty much I call it micro generation, we kind of want everything within a minute. You know what I mean? Burgers, train, everything needs to come in a minute, or we're not happy. It's important to understand that actually local democracy does give the opportunity to actually make quick changes, because there are some things within some of your powers here that you can make and influence very quickly. You don't actually have to go through all the bureaucracy that people worry about. And also, that comes back to school as well. If you make school a much more democratic place in general, and you involve young people in decision making from early, they grow up understanding that actually this is just something that I've always done and will continue to do for the rest of my life, because we decided on our new teachers who our school recruits. We decided on our lunch menu, what colour the wall is, what our curriculum looks like, because a lot of schools are beginning to do this, not many, but there are schools that are pioneering, and a lot of those students will grow up and will have the attributes to end up becoming the kind of citizens we want to engage with. So school's a big place. If you really want to change anything, particularly in Kirklees, then, if I said it right, then then that is a very good place to start, and actually making sure that schools embrace that culture of actually making school a democratic place. What decisions can you actually give young people responsibility over, and actually share the power, because that's essentially what democracy is. It's about power, and if you give young people that responsibility from early, they just grow up and it's just natural habit. So that's like a straight away a barrier in terms of a solution. So for me, school is really where it really starts. And you need to get people when they're much younger. And those who are not in school, but there's still hope in the sense of actually making sure you're working with the people you probably met, like community leaders and other people, to ensure that they understand the importance of this. And I guess it's also about decision makers coming down to the actual reality of the people who are living in their communities, to actually understand the issues and be transparent and honest. And I know a lot of times for politicians that can be a very difficult thing, to be transparent and honest. However, that's what most people respect. And in that way, because it's important, people, in terms of even from Bite the Ballot, a lot of the resources we create, is one of them in particular, the basics, is to show them about the difficult decision making in two ways. You as a decision maker, and the fact of you basically to understand, it's to show the importance of you making decisions, as well as the difficulty associated with decision making, which is important for people to understand. There's one thing me deciding stuff, and that's all great. However, and there's one thing me criticising you when I don't understand the difficulty of decisions you have to make. So that's one of the things we try to show. So a lot of the people my age that we engage with, actually, they're making decisions, particularly around politics, are tough, and they're not just decisions about policies, or whatever. They're actually decisions that involve budgets, and they're very difficult decisions to make. So, for example, in one of the games, we give them like £100 in 9 different areas. So we might look at the economy, look at housing, look at transport, X, Y, Z. Then they spend £100 across those 9 different areas. Then we tell them all of a sudden, now you've only got £75, and there's been a recession, we could increase taxes, but we're not. We're going to actually make cuts. And then we show them actually the process of, now you've got to make cuts. And even on that small level of £100, they all find that exercise very difficult. And then all we show them, the exercise, the actual difficulty associated with decision making, and actually the responsibility with it. And actually the same reasons why you made particular decisions are the same reasons why those other people make it. And it's not to say that actually politicians have some sort of excuse. However, showing people the reality of the role, and also the importance that actually anybody can get involved in politics or actually become a decision maker as well. So I guess the barriers are mainly around school, and actually not engaging effectively with community leaders who actually have the influence to influence the people you're trying to reach in the first place. And then the third one is actually making sure you create that platform where you can always have continuous dialogue, and when you do meet, you have solutions and you actually help to fulfill them in terms of your role, and they do it. Because I really feel like a lot of communities can solve their own problems, as you're doing now. And if everyone just done that, we wouldn't really be in this mess, really, to us. Because everyone's issues around democracy is going to be totally different, or any issue. And I do believe in self and in community, and that if people do come together, there's enough expertise, social capital in the community to turn around issues. If everybody, all the key stakeholders, are willing to work with each other. I really don't, and I really feel like that's even more cost effective, because you're using your own internal resources you've got now.
That's extremely useful. Thank you very much for that. Just as a follow-on, of course, sort of expand that out. In some ways, if there is a particular disconnect between local democracy rather than sort of wider democracy in young people, do you think there are specific reasons around local issues, the local framework that need to be addressed?
Yeah, so I think that comes down to education as well. People don't understand the channels of communication, and if I've got an issue, is it a national issue or is it a local issue? So for example, I use the issue of the lamppost. Obviously that's your local council could probably sort that out. However, people have got no clue. And the issue in terms of not enough schools, not enough. The bin men the bin people don't come around enough. A lot of things are that people don't know the difference between what's a national issue and what's a local issue. So therefore, in terms of engaging in local democracy, that's really tough, because people don't understand the landscape at the end people don't know people don't know how the system works. So therefore, people, even if you are local and it's right next to you, you're not gonna know because you just don't know, and who's ever gonna tell you? And for me, but then maybe there's more of a role, as I said, in terms of councils probably coming to more places where these people are, as opposed to expecting them to come to them to ensure that actually that problem is addressed. Because many people don't actually meet councillors, even though there's more councillors than an MP in the area. And I feel like that is a simple solution. And I get some people just feel like I want to put on an event, attend, and I can meet young people there. However, there needs to be that natural desire to go to these places where young people are, and the most difficult places as well. Because if you want people to understand what you do, the importance and the fact that it could be them one day, they need to actually see that people like you exist and that you are normal like them. Because if not, politicians become like the new sort of policemen where people feel like actually who are you and you're not really a human being and you're kind of robotic.
Do you think that councillors understand your people's aspirations and concerns?
Yeah, to be honest, I think that just depends on the councillor. Like I said, I feel like when I was much younger, I would probably say all politicians are probably like crooks and bad and evil people.
We're just going to edit that a bit.
But I guess as I've gone older and I've met much more people who are obviously involved in politics in terms of like elected politicians, you come to see that actually there are a lot of nice people, there are a lot of people who do care passionately, who actually want to make a difference, and then there's some people who obviously feel this entitlement, and there's some people who just generally don't care. So I guess it's just like with anything, there's good and bad, and as I've got older and I've met more people, I've become to understand actually that there are definitely great councillors out there. If anything, councillors are probably best placed to deal with local issues than the MPs, because a lot of MPs are parachuted, whereas councillors are not. They tend to people who live in your community who will have a sense of understanding, or people will know. It's very rare that you get a councillor that no one's seen before just come out one day and be like, I'm your councillor.
Yeah, that's helpful. I suppose to sort of think about it the other way, is how effective do you think that local authorities are in aggregating and understanding young people's issues, particularly those under the age of 18 who are electorally invisible?
I guess that's why a lot of councils try to have like youth councils to help them do that job. My only problem is I just feel like a lot of youth councils are ineffective unless they actually do consultations. So the same kind of process you're going through now, I guess that's probably what makes me kind of different in a lot of places, because I'm just very critical. I don't think a lot of youth things actually do work unless it's got enough resource and they're allowed to actually, the same people trying to engage are the same people who are kind of leading the process. So if you want to understand young people, you give them the resource and opportunity to actually speak to other young people about the issues, and then let them, similar to what you guys are doing, come back and say, this is what we want, or this is what we want to work with you together to ensure it happens. I don't think a lot of the work is effective, or a lot of councils or MPs will not know what they need unless they actually do those wide consultations. What happens if you say, I'm setting up a youth council or whatever, just like in a class, just the loudest people obviously talk and put their hands up. However, it's the people who are desperately quiet and probably in need of most help, you probably won't put themselves forward. So it's understanding actually, even if you get these people who are engaged, obviously there's a room for them, you need to understand that actually you need to put so much effort to get these people who are, you need to use them as a tool to ensure that you get all the people who are not engaged, who don't want to be in their role, but don't mind having a conversation with them. And I feel that's what's missing, is the conversation element. Youth councils by themselves can only do so much. However, you give them enough resource to engage with people who are completely not like them, then that makes an effective process, whatever you're trying to find out, if it is the issues as well as the solutions. I feel like a lot of times youth consultations are just to find out about what the young people care about or what issues are they have. Sometimes, there's a lot of times actually it's tokenistic. A lot of times they actually have the solutions, so they are probably the best with us. If they do tell you actually, I think X, Y, Z, they probably do have a solution to it. And it's about making sure that when you do these things, they're solution focused and there's a purpose. And come back to my point about transparency, saying actually we are going to do this, we'll definitely act on these recommendations. You might give us 10, we might only do 3, because that's what we can do. However, that's just life. We've reached, and I feel like that's just the part of decision making in politics. People understand you will never always get your way. That never happens. Not even in any friendship, relationship, and there'll be no difference when you've got a group of people who come from all different kinds of places trying to make decisions. You'll never always get your way. And just about people understanding actually, even if you want different outcome from me, at least I understand where you're coming from, as opposed to not having that conversation, full stop.
So it's that experience that then sort of moderates expectations and makes them more realistic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it needs to be happening from an earlier age.
Yeah.
Andrew,
I mean, what you're saying is really exciting. Have you got some examples of where young people have actually been allowed to sort out an issue? You know, this is an issue. Just what do you think ought to be done? And that's happened. Have you seen some examples? Have you got an example?
Yeah, cool. So in terms of like my own background, so I kind of got in, not kind of, I got involved in research pretty much from about 18 or so, and a lot of the projects which I was doing, particularly one I done last year just before the general election, I got about 24 young people across the UK. We've done a research project looking at particular topics like education, housing, migration, God knows, criminal justice, and then we literally got them to do their own research, go out there and talk to people as well as do their own, do literature and that kind of stuff. And literally, in terms of they looked at all the issues, looked at how it affects young people, found the solutions to those, made recommendations. We advocate those issues in terms of to the right people when the next government come in. And a few of those things, particularly around equality and gender equality in particular. One of the recommendations was looking at when big companies getting them to publish actually how much people, how much men and women are being paid. Very simple solution, and just things which Cameron, when he was Prime Minister, did actually take on board in terms of getting these big, much larger companies to publish figures of what men and women are being paid. However, a lot of that stuff comes through, like I said, evolving through that whole process. That was a whole project that involved about 50 people. 24 young people were actually the authors, and other adults and people who are experts in academics in those areas supporting them to produce that research. However, they were all, a lot of them never wrote a report before, never have had anything published, and a lot of them actually not engaged in politics, but they come out at the end of it, and some of them have taken jobs in those areas or issues that they care about. And that's just simply by just a simple form of engagement, making sure people actually give people responsibility, essentially, and telling them actually you can do something about the things you care about. There's a powerlessness that stops a lot of people from engaging. So hopefully that example. But there are others just in terms of social. Like I run a youth-led research company now, and a lot of the clients we get, they want to understand what young people think about, God knows, one of their programs which are meant to benefit groups such as them. And throughout the whole process, it's just young people that do all the work from beginning to end. We might get some support from what academic care or there, however, outside of that we do everything ourselves, and that is a massive form of empowerment. And the good thing is that as we continue to expand, we continue to employ more young people, get more young people involved in projects, have that big conversation that needs to be had about whatever issue or whether they're seeking.
You talk about housing, so is that research available?
Yeah,
Of
course.
I've just forwarded it to you all.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah.
It's just
Just
the
email it to you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's and the thing about that, those are the kind of things where it's free. We made it put online because we're not trying to make people pay for it and say pay this so you can read it. We actually want people to access information. And the important thing, if you actually look at how it's written, I believe much in actually keeping things simple. So it's written and it's past the grammar test. There's nothing there that your grammar won't understand. And that's literally our philosophy in terms of actually making things simple. And the problem, coming back to the initial question of a barrier in politics, another big one is just making things more complex than they need to be. If things can be said simple, then let's keep it simple. If you need 3 words, then use 3 words instead of 50. And I just feel like politics is just full of too much jargon. And I understand in certain fields it's okay, like academia and whatever, not because you need to sound smart amongst your fellows. But I just guess that just keeping things simple is just important. Not even just for young people, just for anybody. Just, I mean, and it's not exactly the greatest example, but the reason why the Sun's the most read newspaper in the UK is because it's written for people who got reading age of 8.
No.
but and a lot of times, if politics was that simple, then more people could swim it. Because that's my point. You're competing with a lot of people who,
even when it's a complex issue.
yeah, but even if you make, my point is, even at the point of engagement, it needs to be simple. When people want to get into the nitty gritty, then obviously there's. But however, I feel if you just try hard enough, even complex things you can make simple. I think that's something that politicians themselves need to try much more work to understand. Actually, when I'm talking about something or I'm presenting something, as complex as it is, can I make it simple? And people do it all over the world. This is just not in the UK.
I remember when we were writing the usage report, and it was suggested that we highlighted the problems of the vernacular of politics, and so all went, yeah, that's actually part of the problem. By using the word vernacular, you're actually sort of confusing it yourself.
Exactly, because that's like 1% of the population that understands what that means. And you can imagine.
We were trying to make that point.
There's always a narrative, isn't there, rather than what's the story.
But there is an issue about the language in which.
Yeah, and I feel like if that if we sorted out, if we made it more simple, very much talking about from Bite the Ballot perspective, a lot of the resources we make, it's just really about being as simple as possible. Like literally, you get so much results from keeping things simple. Because then you just get people engaged. Then once people are engaged, it's like any subject. If you're interested in it, like history, you like history, you understand it on a basic level. You might understand World War II. However, when you want to discover the actual depths and the academia and the different arguments, then it gets complex. However, you don't mind that because you're in it. You've got a passion for it. And with politics, it's something that we're trying to make people passionate and care about, but making it complex at the same time when everything else they see is simple. The MTV based, the E4, the YouTube, everything's just simple for them.
I think you've answered quite a lot of what I wanted to ask you, Kenny. One of the questions was, do you think that young people feel less valued and their opinions don't count? And I'm particularly asking you that because I am in touch with my community, particularly with young people. We had peak time crime time, 8 till 10, Friday night, Saturday night, and it just ran on. And the only way to resolve it was for me to go out, work with them, open a youth club, which I still run today, with volunteers, and I found that to be absolutely phenomenal because young people do engage. But what we had that happened, I'm only telling you this, it's quite relevant. Other services seen it, police decided they would have a drop-in that night. About 100 young people didn't come from the district, but they watched, and when the police had gone, they all come in. So it's about a trust element as well, of feeling valued, and I don't know how they've got to feel valued, and don't promise them the world what you can't deliver, I found out.
Yeah,
so I'm like the mum to them now. I've become a mum to quite a lot of these young people, and it's a nice feeling, but it's moving it on as well, you know, that their voice counts, and that's the bit I'm at now. So it's like you're valued, but your voice.
Yeah, that's a good place, and I guess the reason why I mentioned the police before, just in terms of relationship between people and politicians, coming like that, one of massive distrust and people seeing you not as real people who don't get it, even if you do get it, because it's not like police. I'm not saying I'm the biggest fan, however, they are. They've got families. They do exactly the same things that we do. However, people see them as pretty much robots who are controlled by whatever high beings there. But like I said, I mean, politicians, it's beginning to get to that stage where people just see one, and before they even open your mouth, there's so much they think about you already, and they've already painted their picture of what you're going to be like and X, Y, Z. I think your point about feeling valued, come back to a point actually for that, about the actual being honest about what you can deliver. Like I said before, transparency, and just saying actually, if this is what I can do for you, this is what I can do for you. all the things you're asking for, we can try. However, if it doesn't happen, then but at least I've made you aware that's not going to happen. I think things like youth clubs, if councils are going to do anything, it's definitely not to close them down. I feel like that's one of the most, come back to local authority and council decision, I think that's one of the most worst decisions a lot of councils have made. And yeah, you've got to make cuts. But we, literally, so through ClearView research, just done like a UK-wide study for, we got commissioned by UK Youth to do it, looking at youth clubs and the effectiveness of them. It's called Youth Groups Today, looking at the challenges, opportunities, and something else I should know my own report on it. But we visit like a lot of youth clubs across the UK, in like rural places, like Armagh or wherever. I mean, so we did not just like metropolitan or city like places like London, and those youth clubs there are very important to a lot of them because that's the only one place they can go to engage, and actually they are actually a point of engagement for other services because once these young people you're able to build that relationship with them, then all the other services that are trying to engage with them can find all them in one place. And I feel like a lot of councils have missed that trick by getting rid of youth clubs because actually that's the one place where you can engage them into politics, into building relationships with the police if that's something you want to do, in terms of getting employment services, in terms of looking at housing, mental health, because we visited a lot of great youth clubs who are offering all these services. However, that's because they've got one place where they can catch all of them, where hundreds of them go every week in and out of those doors. However, you cut all of them, then where do they congregate? And yeah. And then when they get too bored, then they get funny ideas, and when they get up to no good, then no one can. Not that I'm advocating for what do you call it, anti-social behaviour, however, but idle hands are the devil's playground. People literally got nothing to do. They've got tons of energy and they don't have their own safe space where they feel like they can engage with their friends. Then what they do, because even a lot of parents, you don't want 15 people in your house.
Well, I think that's quite poignant what Ken's saying there, because obviously ours is a voluntary organisation, we're transferring an asset, it's going there. But the young people, where the youth clubs have closed down, when they go to the park and there's a big gathering of them, because it's residential around there, people complain and they're saying to me, where do we go, Kathy? You know, we thought we'd be all right in the park at night, and you can't. If you see them in a group, people's perceptions is there's going to be something wrong, and it isn't.
And even the park as well. That's as much as it's safe, it's not really a safe space. At least a lot of parents don't mind their children being in youth clubs because they know there's at least one or two adults there who will ensure that actually the child is safe. No one's just going to come and do something crazy. And I feel like it's those kind of simple wins that where politicians or councillors can get behind by actually showing people actually there's a desire to actually do something for you, and that is one of the ways, and that is a very simple offering. And for me, every council should be creating these safe spaces, which tend to be youth clubs where people can actually, because then you can imagine once you've done that and they've known actually that the council now put up 3 more youth clubs, then to be honest, you've done something for them, and now it's actually like, how can we continue this and where can we go from here? And then they're more likely to have an open air TV. And this is not about bribery, this is just reality. If these youth clubs don't exist, then you have other problems, guaranteed. I don't know what shape they're going to take, but they'll definitely come.
It has been one of the main complaints as austerity's hit. People have been hit hardest, but they've had the least agency to try and in some ways stem the cuts impact. I just want to push on because I'm aware of time and we've been consistently running late. Sort of like Virgin trains with Jeremy Corbyn on board. Good review. Electoral registration. We know the change, IERs come in, etc. There is an issue, particularly about young people getting onto the electoral register. What kind of solutions would you see would be appropriate to increase levels of youth registration?
Cool. Funny enough, we're literally almost finishing the report on this for Joseph Roundtree Reform Trust. They gave us some funding to do it. In terms of solutions, one of the things we've recommended early is, recommend to you, but it's going to be in the report when you see it. Is
please send us a report when it's ready.
Yeah, no, definitely send it. is around automatic registration for 16 and 17-year-olds. So that's definitely one of the things we recommended. Nothing recommended was just a single register. So regardless of wherever you live in Kirklees, you don't have to go to one polling station. You can go to anyone, because you should. But yeah, it's kind of funny you recommend this stuff in this day of technology. But, in terms of also EROs, people actually processing applications. If there's a single register, then you can have people can check online if they're registered or not, instead of having to re-register for no reason. Also, I guess in terms of actually getting young people, a practical step would be like what they've piloted in Northern Ireland, the schools initiatives. So something that Bite the Ballot has recommended a lot of EROs to follow, where EROs and schools literally partner up together, and they basically just register entire schools and education institutions in the area. So you go to every single secondary school, sixth form, college, university, people referral unit, and just basically register everyone that way. So, it's very simple. And in terms of BTB wise, obviously we've got a lot of online resources that a lot of people just use anyway to play sessions and games, which they can just register people after. But those are kind of the recommendations. They're all cost effective.
I hate to claim something, but the Youth Citizen Commission argued for automatic registration and got totally denounced for it.
But I guess
so
that's
simple.
Yeah, I guess that's why I said 60 to 70 euros. Let's just show it works first, and
single register, absolutely logical. Technology's there. Yeah. Why you compel someone to go to one particular polling station?
And because a lot, like I said, a lot of young people don't.
Chairs, hats slipping off.
Honestly, I guess you want to engage them, and people want to actually be pioneering, particularly local councils. They can probably start to create initiatives from people being registered as well. So is there any other added benefits in terms of actually council tax free, so everyone likes that. But obviously it's about people knowing the benefits of being registered in terms of being on the jury service credit rating. However, if you're looking at local democracy and things like that, is there citizens' juries that you can have locally? Something which Bite the Ballot are recommending in terms of in particular areas and nationally, but actually using the actual register as a pool to get people to actually be part of the citizen juries in terms of actually getting involved in decision making. So you could imagine as a council body you have another group you can actually get involved in that decision making process outside of your particular groups you're already engaged with. You have a set group which could also pull from the register. So it could be very smart, and there's a lot of things we can try and we should.
And these are sort of youth focuses.
Yeah, because then you could imagine, like I said, with that, you could pick young people from the register who could easily be part of this. And the actual what a council decides to do is neither here or there for me. It's just us being innovative and being smart, how we can use the register more widely.
With that sort of focus in there, just to sort of take that on slightly, I just want to think about digital platforms. There's been a lot of discussion, we've had a lot of evidence giving about the notion that digital platforms can enhance democracy. In your report, I've just been reading through, you're talking about this sort of idea that we said we need to go fully digital.
Yeah.
Could you say a little bit more about the potential benefits of that and how that could work?
Cool. I feel like a lot of councils waste too much money sending letters to everyone's house to basically say go and get registered probably every year, even though some people have not moved for like the past 5 years, but still get sent to them. Then another one comes with red writing saying you'll be fined if you don't. I think that's a terrible way to engage people. Just either register or get involved in the council anyway. Especially when we all know that no one actually gets prosecuted for not registering anyway, really. So it's a real waste of money. But in terms of a lot of people who are trying to engage young people, they're online. And come back to my point in terms of we know that they're all on, like, I don't know, watching Unilad content, they're on, whether it's Lad Bible, whether it's SBTV, whatever it is, we know that they're on these different social networks, in particular like Facebook, Twitter. So that's the best places to find them. However, and if you don't want to do it directly, like I say, you indirectly go through community leaders and influencers to reach your network. And that's something that Bite the Ballot has done very effectively and second to none in terms of working with idols and influencers to actually engage the audience registered to vote, as well as working with brands. So we've done partnerships with like Unilad, created videos, and at the end of the videos telling people register to vote. And these are videos that have got millions of views, engaging content. And for me, it's just that simple, really. It's like, who has a massive audience, and how can you work with them to tap into their audience to achieve your outcome, instead of actually saying, look, we want to make the Kirklees Twitter get so big, because we've got to be realistic. Not everyone's going to follow you or digitally. However, if you work for other people who are big in your community, then you can easily engage them through that. So it's literally smart work as opposed to hard work.
One of the things in your report, and one thing that's come up in our consultations, is online voting, which is now you're supportive of that.
Yeah.
Could you say how do you think it will have an effect on young people potentially participating in local democracy?
I guess in terms of online voting, just a lot of young people who said that who didn't vote in previous elections have said that they would have if the process was much easier. And obviously online voting is one of the methods that have been recommended as making the process easier, because they could easily, because one of the things comes back to like a lot of people who didn't vote, for example, referendum day, go to work in the morning. First and foremost, they don't know the polling station opens at 7. So back to lack of information anyway. So they go to work, finish work, they're tired, and they're like, actually, this is just long, I don't want to wait in the queue, even though there probably is no queue. And that's it, that's why they don't vote. As simple as that, nothing hard. Or look out your window, it's freezing. And they wouldn't go out anyway, but then to get out to vote, it's like, yeah, I did try. But and as much as these things we're laughing about and chuckling, these are just real examples. People just go to work and they're tired, and everyone's employer's going to give them the morning off or give them some time to go and vote and come to work. So online voting does make that process much easier. If not, like I said, then when you have the single register, they can just easily go to a polling station, their work, and then the government can do more to encourage employers that on election day to actually give staff time to go and vote. That's something simple if you don't want to go down the online voting route. However, I do think life would be much easier if you could do online voting, and maybe there's some more pilots that need to be done now. However, it's definitely something we should explore. And if we do the pilots and it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. Then we just try again and learn from our mistakes.
Any other ideas that you think that could encourage, obviously there's always this figure band about how 18, 24-year-olds vote less than others in local and national elections. Are there any initiatives that you could see that could increase that electoral participation and turnout rate?
Yep. Coming back to the point I made before, I feel like if you give people the information through the right channels of communication, so through people who they actually trust and who they actually listen to, who won't influence who they vote for, however, will influence the fact of them to actually care about the topic, then you're more likely to, one, increase turnout. However, a problem with turnout as well, and people don't like to admit this, is just a lot of the candidates that are offered are not exactly people's cup of tea. And that's one of the big issues, the fact that a lot of these people just don't really feel like they have choice. So therefore, people are like, okay, I want to vote, but who do I vote for? And that's another. So that is what I feel is. I feel young people are probably way more critical than probably the older generation in terms of actually picking someone who they don't really agree with like that. I guess as people get older, they start to realise actually you kind of just have to. But voting for the best of the worst isn't exactly how politics should be, and I feel like we're kind of heading that direction. So I think part of that issue is getting better candidates, and at the same time working with those community leaders to engage the audience that we're trying to engage with.
sort of to live with that, because I think it is the idea of better candidates. How do you think we can get more young people to stand for councillors?
To become councillors?
Yeah.
I guess
particularly BME,
yeah,
women, you know, with those sort of
the particular groups.
Yeah.
One, I guess, in terms of actually being able to say what the role consists of. One of the big problems of political roles, coming back to information again, what is the role of an MP or what's the role of a councillor? And this is what brings issues in regards to accountability and everything else. So, for example, if I go into a Chinese restaurant and the food is not good, I know I can complain to the manager because I know the manager's role and everything else is to ensure the quality X, Y, Z. However, if there's something that goes wrong, I don't know who I go to because I don't know anything about my councillor, my MP. It's just this lack of information and this lack of who is accountable. And I guess once people actually know what a role consists of, then they can know actually what they can do in order to... Because I do feel a lot of people do actually want to empower and make their community better and would love the job, they just don't understand what the job really is. It is one of those roles where there's actually no job description. You could become the CEO of one of the biggest companies in the UK and you can find a job description, but with politicians there doesn't seem to be one. And they seem like the only group to get away with that. And that's a big issue in itself, so I feel like if there's anything to recommend, it's actually creating this job spec and actually then empowering people to understand that they can and giving them the resources to do it. There's one thing pushing people to do it, but actually we know money is a factor. And we know, for example, the Conservative Party, one of the things they've done is candidates who are either BME or women, they've actually given them bursary schemes in order to support their campaign work. So yeah, I guess that's one of the ways, and also mentoring schemes being involved in that. So having actually experienced councillors mentor young people who want to become councillors, and basically just give them the resources you give anyone else who's not young. That's basically what it is. It's not. I don't think there's any special rule to it.
Well, a house and a pension.
Yeah, pension. Because we can't get that. That's a bit too late.
Or we used to have a pen.
I don't think we do have a pension.
I don't know if anyone else got it. I've got certainly one question which I'm very keen to ask, which is one which has come up and I think has been very much connected with you over the years, which is lowering the voting age to 16.
Yeah.
It is certainly nowhere near as age sensitive in the support. There is greater support for that, although I wouldn't say there's probably overwhelming support, but considerable support for it. I wonder whether, very succinctly, you could outline why you think it would be a good idea to lower the voting age 16 for local elections as well as national.
I guess in terms of Bite the Ballot, there's no take on lowering the voting age. But me personally, I guess I spoke a lot about in the Kenny report too. For me, just very much practical in terms of all the entitlements you tend to get at 16. It's age where, for example, you can get registered, so they can be part of the process there and then anyway. So just for me, one part of it is logic in the sense of actually people can get registered at this age, then we should give the opportunity to actually vote outside of everything else we know which they can do, which I'm not going to bore you all with. And just gets them into the habit of voting earlier, and particularly at this time when we know we've got such an ageing population. I think even now, from a fairness perspective, it's even more important to actually balance things out, because regardless of whatever happens in any election, if you live in an ageing population, then come back to your point about value. It doesn't really mean much, because even if all your group vote and just some of this group vote, this group, regardless, their interests will always be, and like I said, you won't always win. However, it becomes ridiculous when every time you just know you could be outvoted based on age. And for me, that's where the fairness aspect comes into it. Obviously, if it's something that a lot of young people want, then obviously something that you campaign for and obviously continue to fight for. But that's pretty much my reasons. So I'm still a big believer of it, and believe particularly now that people will be finished school at 18. If they're voting at 16, then whilst they're in school, coming back to this point of education culture, They'll be voting before they leave school. Won't have to be one of these things when they leave school. They have to start doing all of a sudden. It'll be something they've done whilst they're in school anyway.
So do you believe that they'll actually go out and vote then? Giving them the power is one thing, then actually getting them to go out and vote.
Getting them to go out and vote, that's... For me, I'm not really... That's something I don't really care about argument, because this, for me, is a point of more principle as opposed to saying that if you give it to them, they will go and vote. For me, everyone's got a right to vote and a right not to, and I feel like many times we kind of forget that. Obviously, the positive thing is to also get people to vote. However, people
Compulsory voting is not something that you go on to.
compulsory voting, no way. I feel like that is I feel like that's a terrible idea. I feel like until we've exhausted all the recommendations that I have and everyone else has, that is definitely not an option. I feel like that is like when you're fully dying and you need to bring it back in line to bring compulsory voting out. However, I just think with our democracy, we haven't tried anything out yet. No way. Until we've exhausted all opportunities, then I would say compulsory voting. But I feel we're far from that.
Just going back to your, sorry, is that...
Yeah, it's fine. I've got a couple of minutes.
Yeah, just going back onto your comment in terms of the stigma with elected members. We haven't connected as well with the young generation. Why do you believe that we've got this stigma straight away, and how can we, getting the schools to do that? And I'm quite proud that I think with Kirklees there's a few schools that have implemented a bit of democratic processes in the school, in their everyday lives in the school at the moment. So I'm really proud because they're going into, like what you said about painting the walls and getting the classes and the whole schools kind of like participate. And it's really good that they're kind of going into the basic kind of things. But how do you feel we can change that, like, in terms of the stigma that goes through?
The stigma in terms of that young people have.
So we're not all crooks.
No, definitely not. No politicians are crooks. Well, I guess one of the biggest ways of changing it is, like I said, is by putting yourself in the environments where a lot of people probably may not like you. I feel like a lot of times politicians, like police, are scared to be around particular groups of people. As much as they claim not to be, how much of them have actually been to a people referral unit, been to a youth offending service, or been to mental service where young people at? A lot of places we're talking about are like fluffy places where, but I'm talking about in terms of actually being in the lines, then many haven't, so therefore, of course, you wouldn't have an understanding. And whereas people like myself, I'm comfortable, I've been in all of those environments, people referral units, or it's prisons, whatever, those environments where I love, because guess what, those people are probably the kind of people you need to engage, who've got the passion and everything you actually desire of someone who will actually bring about that change. Is they're probably the most angry about it. However, if you engage them and show them actually, you care as well, you give them a route to actually express themselves and understand that through getting a role like yours, they can do something about this frustration. Because what engaged me in politics was a lot of frustration. I'm not here because I thought this is some great thing and because of society, because I was a young, frustrated and angry boy, and however I've just channeled that frustration in a very positive way, and I just feel like more people come across. You just got to go to these people, that's my point, and that's why I feel where the lack is, young people are more than happy to come and speak to you, it's just whether you're going to come to them, and this, I feel like I said, it's just getting off your high horse and engaging these groups, that is what's going to, like I said, you can probably look at all the councils in the UK and ask them how many of them have been to the places that we know where the most marginalised people are at, and I guarantee most of them have never gone there, not even once. And that is the problem already. So therefore everyone's living in their separate, silos, not talking to each other, but complaining about each other.
Well, that's a considerable amount of food for thought you've given us. Thank you very, very much for your time. Thank you very much for your enthusiasm, and more than anything, thank you very much for your ideas. It's always a pleasure to speak to you, and it's always interesting to be reminded about quite how old I feel. No, it is wonderful. As I say, thank you very much for the report. That will certainly be fed into it. We've all got a copy of that report, and more than that, we will make sure that we come back and interact with you on the Bite the Ballot. And if you have any other thoughts or ideas, if you can send the report that you're...
Yeah, of course, yeah, I'll send, I think,
we're
going to finish it.
But thank you very much for your time, Kenny. It's been a real pleasure as ever to speak to you, sir.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much as well.
Not at all.
Thank you.
Someone's stolen the seat.